Hello, and welcome to the first of a new series which we're calling State of the Project EtherGem. Now, this is very much like State of the Project Marios, if you've been watching that, in which we follow a particular project through its development and we speak to those guys at the helm, or guys and girls, whatever it may be, at the helm, and discuss some of the more technical things at times, but just generally get a feel for the direction things are heading in, what's happening next, and how things have gone so far. So, today, for our maiden adventure, I am joined by the main man within EtherGem himself, Osoese. Osoese, how are you, sir?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be back on one of your shows. And I remember the last time we spoke, and it was a good experience. So, yeah, looking forward to
Yes.
this one.
Yes.
By
Right.
the
So,
way, I do have
yeah.
to correct, not to cut in. Not the main guy. I'm one of the guys in Egem, EtherGem.
Yes. Yes. You are very modest. You are very modest. So, what I will do actually, before we start, I'll give a little background for the people who possibly haven't seen our last interview. But we interviewed you on ITK Crypto possibly 2 or 3 years ago now. It was a while ago.
It was about close to 2, maybe a year and 8 months or something, if I recall. Because I remember I was getting at the time I thought I was getting pretty close to a Saphire launch,
Mhm.
and still kind of there. But
The
yeah,
eternal 3 months, right? The last 3 months always seem to take forever.
blockchain is hard, right?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So during that interview, from my point of view, I was kind of blown away by, and what I'll do, I'll link to the interview in the description below. I was quite blown away by the things that you guys were actually building, and just some of your approach towards crypto and Ethereum, and how you were looking at the way they were doing things, how you could do things differently, and especially some of the things with Sapphire, which we will speak about later in the episode today. And a few months ago now, I got into speaking with one of your developers, a guy called Luis, for another
Oh yeah,
project that I was doing. And he said about EtherGem, and I went to look at it, and I was astonished that the market cap was so small. So I was like, well, this is obviously the place I need to be, because there's just tremendous potential. So we need to start getting that potential out there. That's the reason why we're having this podcast, so that we can start to express some of the things that you're doing in your own words, and I can try and coax some of the information out of you. So that's kind of how we've ended up here.
yeah,
So
and I think we accept coaching as well. I know you've done some successful projects from our past conversations, even including Pivx. And I remember when I worked on a Pivx clone, on the first time we spoke, I didn't know that you worked with Pivx. But I had worked on a Pivx clone, and I think I said, well, most of the masternode coins at that time, masternodes were hot,
yeah,
um, copied Pivx. So, and I think that amazed you as well.
yeah, yes, yeah. Generally, and that was another thing which I quite liked, is that in the space there are people get egos really quickly. So a lot of coins that had forked off of Pivex at the time didn't say that they had forked off of Pivex. They just kind of forked and were like, "Oh, we're great because we're proof of stake and we got masternodes," and kind of just left it at that. So I was quite impressed that you had said that. But saying about masternodes being hot, currently platforms are hot. Currently, Ethereums are hot. Binance chains are hot. Polkadots, Kasamas, Cardanos, Solanas, all of them are hot. And EtherGem is one of the very few that has remained decentralized. And I think that's something I guess we'll discuss over the course of our discussions, our monthly discussions here. So just to round up before we actually get started, today we're going to speak about some of the directions that Ethereum are going, how you feel those relate to EtherGem, what kinds of things you're building. Tell us a little bit more about Sapphire, and just general get to know you kind of chit chat for our first coming together. And then as the months go on, we'll kind of be delving into things a little bit more deeper. But we'd have this be the starting place for any of the viewers. So
Okay, yeah, fantastic.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started then. Oh, so easy. In your own words, what is EtherGem?
Well, EtherGem is a stable Ethereum clone. The team that started EtherGem originally worked on an Ethereum Classic coin clone, and we wanted to do some things different than that team had in mind. Egem itself was not originally supposed to be a coin; it was going to be a token on an Ethereum Classic clone. And some controversy happened when we decided to do that move, and a couple of us broke off from that coin, and lo and behold, we launched a chain and called it EtherGem, and it works. So Egem was born, and then it's been a really good Ethereum clone. We sped up the block time slightly. You'll probably talk with Derek at some point in time in one of these future calls. Derek is Riddles.
Derek? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and he did most of the actual Ethereum modifications with us assisting, and he took and put like a difficulty adjustment that keeps it pretty much like a 12 to 13 second block time, and it's been stable. And it was one thing that they had struggled with. They desired a 12-second block time and a stable block time adjustment on that ETH Classic clone. They weren't able to achieve it, so he obviously wanted to implement such a thing on when we did our own clone, and then it took off. We are primarily proof of work. I know this is probably one of your future questions coming up, but I'll kind of spoil it a little bit. We tend to stay proof of work. We enjoy the mining community, the tech heads that come into the Discord and work on their miners or work on, just the different technical aspects of building out rigs and all the building a computer stuff that goes with that, and the software is interesting to our community. And so that's kind of where we see ourselves. And then I'll let you ask some more questions because I can keep going down that trail.
well, yeah, no, that's really cool. Another thing that just sprung to mind is that you guys started, let's say, about 2 years ago. Is that about right? 2 years, 2.5 years?
Actually, 3. March of 2018 was our soft launch, but it was supposed to be our hard launch, and we. So there's a couple of large mining communities. I'm not going to target the specific one, but when we were going to launch, we did our AN, and somebody in one of the mining community Discords said they were going to fork the chain at launch because we were doing a fair launch. We let everybody know when the Genesis block was going to take place. Mm-hmm. And they actually did cause some drama when we did the initial launch. We had already done 2 test launches, internally, and it was go time. We put all the rigs together. We got ready to start up the chain, kicked it off, had some drama, and then realized we left the pre-mine from Ethereum in the latest launch, the last one, because we made some rapid changes based on what this guy had said. Mm-hmm. So 24 hours later, we relaunched and removed that and paid back the miners that helped us launch. One unique thing about EtherGem, March of 2018, pretty much April 1st, we came out with a terahash. That was, and I remember one of the founding members originally said, if we could get to 200 gigahash coming off of a launch, it would be a good launch. Every coin he had seen Ethereum-based that did 200 gigahash was successful. Yep. Well, we came out and blew our own minds with the terahash somehow. We were hooked up with MinerPool at the time. I know they don't exist now, but they put a lot of hash on the network and just a big community effort.
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. And it's effectively for people who are new to crypto, or a lot of people got in at 2017, effectively EtherGem has only survived in a bear market. It's been pure bear market all the time you guys have been around. How have you
Yeah.
found that? Yeah, and how have you found that? And how excited are you now moving into a bull market now that there is actual there's new money, new energy, new enthusiasm coming in? Do you feel like your lean times and your the proof that the project can survive lean times is going to put you in good stead for the future now we're moving back into a bull market?
Yeah, well, if you go back to 2018, you remember anybody could launch a coin back then, and most of them were not coins; they were tokens on Ethereum. And there was like a running joke where you took the clone website that had 5 profiles that said a bunch of nonsense and said we're a coin that does this, 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 and this, and you could like press the button and it would swap out the content. You could almost launch from that template and be a successful crypto in 2018. And then the market tanked right about the time we launched. It was the tail end of the bull run from 17, and people didn't realize it yet. No, we didn't realize it yet. But we're into the community-based crypto aspect, and I don't know. It's like I haven't really noticed the bear market. If you want to, yeah, there's been some dramas, and yeah, we didn't all get rich overnight, like probably a lot of us thought would happen. And just back then, you could almost buy into whatever crypto, and it went up, thousands of times. Late 2017, but in early 2018, that was changing, and you had to really start to pay attention to what a coin did and what the community was doing, what the devs were doing, and people weren't falling for the same lines of BS that worked 6 months previously. BitConnect was long gone, but the memes and jokes still hung around, and we got into the development of a crypto. We already were looking at some of the peripheral technologies around Ethereum and working on it, like Mist wallet clones and stuff like that. We had the joys of getting, Satoshi Labs and setting our coin up kind of official with the chain ID, and then getting on Trezor Ledger and, MetaMask, I'm sorry, My Ether wallet and stuff like that, where our chain is registered in the dropdown. And every one of those things was fun to experience because it made it a little bit more real. Getting on our first exchange, we're all of a sudden real because, forget the exchange. Yeah, well, you got to get on one exchange, but our first exchange was like BitShares. Yeah. And that's how we got trading at first. But that was a lot of fun to figure out how to do that. And then we got on Coin Codex. Eventually it was like the struggles of getting on Coin Market Cap at first was, all these things that people don't think about what a crypto has to go through when they launch and they don't have a budget, because we're no pre-mine, community-based coin. And if you took a quick look at our market cap, Egem is our ticker, you saw that we just barely scraped over $1 million market cap recently. Yeah. So I think we're at 1.5 today.
Yeah. I find that amazing. That but let's not we'll come back to this maybe in a few years, and we'll say, okay, look at when it was 1.5 million, because I'd done a similar thing with PivX when it was half a cent, and I was kind of like, it's too cheap. It's way too cheap. So when projects like this are at this stage, it's the time to really go in there and pick up some. Well, this is not financial advice, etc., etc., etc.
DYOR.
Yes, yes, definitely, 2 Ds, definitely DYOR. Okay, so I wanted to ask you.
I'm grabbing. I worked all day, so having a coffee and just enjoying the chat. So
yes, good.
Hope you don't mind with that, and I appreciate you doing this late, Cryptosi.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's I've had a pretty good day today as well, so I'm still quite alive. And doing these types of podcasts really, it's my thing. So I could probably stay up all night. So I wanted to ask you. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Kusama and Polkadot, but Kusama is effectively like it's like a test net of sorts. Testnet's a horrible word, but it's like a testnet of sorts for Polkadot in that it's pretty much the same as Polkadot. However, things are supposed to be launched quicker on Kusama, and Kusama is supposed to be able to take more risks than Polkadot can because it's a smaller chain. Do you see a similar role for EtherGem as opposed to Ethereum? Do you feel that you guys may in the future start to perhaps release things that Ethereum are planning to release sooner than Ethereum actually do them because you're a smaller market cap and there's not the kind of fear and slowness to move that some of the bigger market caps have? Do you feel that that's something that EtherGem may take up in the future?
Maybe. Let me say it this way: the guys that did Ethereum, the number of developers are geniuses in what they put together, and there's a lot of avenues that you could go down with that code base. They obviously have a path that they have chosen, and they've obviously launched a good chain that is continuing to persist in the marketplace. I really thought the first time Ethereum fees got high that it was going to cause some difficulty for the chain. And here we are, the second round. There's no crypto kitties now; it's everything, and the fees are sky high. And the swaps or the Uniswap and all that stuff has really kind of just skyrocketed the fees, and Ethereum is still plugging away.
Yeah.
So development wise, we're probably not looking at what Ethereum's roadmap is and trying to implement it on Egem. What we did do is we made sure that we kept pace with the parts of Ethereum that we liked. And you can deploy contracts on Egem. Most recently, somebody put a proof of weekends modified significantly to be more community based and less pyramid schemey. Called Let's Hodl on Egem, and that contract did really well and brought some excitement. People are looking to put some of the swap contracts on Egem, and the contracts work really well. But what else works is the NFTs. I've been building some NFTs, testing those, and really kind of intrigued with the technology that's kind of like really there at our fingertips that hasn't, been explored, maybe because Ethereum fees are a little high, right? So you could deploy a contract on Egem for peanuts and continue using it for a while. Will our fees ever skyrocket? With use, that's going to happen. And if that does, we'll figure something out. But we also, you're probably going to start to ask me about Saphire and stuff. So I'll save the rest of how I would answer this question for those conversations because it applies.
Okay, so that was my thinking when I first found out about EtherGem. I kind of thought, well, effectively, I know you guys, and I hadn't even asked you that before we'd had this conversation, but I knew you guys would have kept up with Ethereum. So I was thinking, effectively, the struggles that I would have to go through to get tokens on Kovan network or one of the other Ethereum testnet networks it's horrendous. It's horrible. I feel like some kind of beggar moving around from place to place, just trying to
get testnet
right now. Effectively, to skip all of that, I could just implement whatever it is I want to test on EtherGem. Just implement it, and it's not only is it a test network, but it's a real network with real money. So all of the real elements that you get that you don't get in a traditional test network, which is why I don't like to use that word. You've got those elements there. So if the project is successful, it does have a target. So you are really stress testing it. You are really making sure that hackers can't hack it because there is actually money for them to steal. And I feel like that's
hackers hacking it is the same as hacking like Ethereum. I mean, we have
Yes.
less nodes, but we have 700 nodes. Over 700 nodes that run regularly because we have a node payment system to support the community. And it's
Actually, do you know what? Could you explain that node payment system? Because I think that's another place where EtherGem, I'd say, it has a step up on Ethereum. So could you explain that the node payment system?
Yeah, we put nodes. So this is Derek, and you'll probably talk to him again. I was building Saphire, and Derek came to me one day and said, "I think I'm going to put nodes on Egem and expand our base." So we talked to the community about adding a Coinbase emission to support nodes, and we decided it would be really neat to tie the nodes to the community itself, which is at this time the Discord community. We have some expansion plans if Discord goes away or whatever to keep that alive, but we use Discord. So people come into the Discord community, they run a node, they register it, they get paid. We have 2 tiers of nodes, and then there's mining. So we have miners, we have node holders. They both get rewards and they participate actively in the community. And it becomes a support system, like, you know, the mining channel or the node channel. How do you install a node? We took and we made it as easy as possible because we took, I mean, you can do this on any Ethereum clone, nothing fancy, but we took and compiled our node inside of a Docker image with the chain data. And we try to periodically update that so that the idea is you could just Docker run this image. It's already got your chain data built up to a pretty recent block, so it's going to sync quick, and you're up and running in minutes, right? As opposed to hours waiting for something to sync. We have over 7 million blocks at the moment. So it's a significant amount of time, not that long, but it takes a little while to sync.
How big does that work out to be in terms of gigabytes? Is the blockchain?
You know, I'm horrible at these kinds of questions.
A tough question, right?
I think we're pushing like 5 or 10.
Okay.
Like, so it's not enormous yet.
Oh, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. And I could be off a factor on some of this, but it's definitely not over 25. But I'm thinking that we're somewhere between 5 and 10. I think the Docker image needed to fit inside of 10 last time, and there was some reasons why the Docker image version of it was a little higher than if you just ran a node. But basically, it's not substantial. I have been so deep into Saphire development that there's some things I kind of haven't paid attention to some of the details on especially over the last year, because we've made significant progress. So sorry if I don't know some of these specific answers.
No,
you asked Eric
that
same question. He's going to give you the exact number. You asked the guy Nieners that's in our group, or Lewis. Lewis has been compiling the Docker thing for us. So, like, I did it the first time with him, and then Lewis made the image, and now it's like, hey, Lewis, will you compile another Docker image and throw the chain data in it? And he just runs it and sticks it up on his Docker hub. And I think the Docker hub, we might be reaching some kind of limit there, but it's probably moved over to the Egem GitLab now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did notice you guys ran on GitLab. Okay, I want to ask you about Saphire. Let's talk about Saphire, because it's fast becoming the elephant in our cyber room. So could you tell us what exactly is Saphire and what have you been building it to do?
Yeah, so Saphire initially was just going to be a token to do some trading. Probably pretty similar to the early Binance coin or something along that line, where it would back an exchange. You do some trades, maybe use this we didn't know really how it would work but we wanted to launch a token. Did some fiddling with it. At the time, EtherGem turned into its own chain instead of it being a token. And we got going. so the first thing when you're building something on a chain is like, I realized, why make a token when we can make a coin and do like a side chain to the Ethereum chain that we already run, EtherGem. It's an Ethereum-based chain, and tie the two together in a format where we can kind of share data. And at the time, we didn't have Pearl Guard. We have Pearl Guard in place. It's something else that people would want to know about. So you asked about an attack. If somebody attacks the chain, and we've survived an attack like this, where they try the double spend thing, or they can like 51% with the hash. That doesn't work on Egem the way it is because of Pearl Guard. And so we appreciate Master Dubs, working with us to put that in place when Pearl still existed. I know Pearl has decided to retire. They had some like modifications to their chain, and then had an issue with an exchange, and I don't know what happened, but sad to see them go. They had made it through, and they were pre-existent to Egem. But anyway, Master Dubs from Pearl was always a big part of our community and helped us out and put that in place. Well, Derek put it in place, but he helped with it, and allowed us to use it. So that was really cool. Yeah. Anyway, so what I wanted to do was have like a copy of the latest blocks on the side chain. And that way I could validate if somebody did a 51%, because you would notice immediately when that chain overwrite happened that the records would not be reconciled. And that was the initial thought, was like that. And I had built an inventory system, one of my past employment situations. And I built a pretty large inventory and asset tracking system that did some maintenance data with, basically like maintenance routines tied to inventory and big parent-child situation. And I wanted to, you got to remember, we're talking back in 2018. At the time, people were trying to use these chains for logistics a lot. I think it's getting back to that now. But so I was trying to figure out, what do I want to build? I just want to build something related to blockchain. And what it ended up coming down to is I figured out how to make the basics of a blockchain, right? And I chose Blake 2S as my mining algorithm, my hash. And that kind of worked. And then the other reason that I chose it was because it's complementary to the ET hash, and you could put Ethereum and Blake 2S on the same rig and mine two coins, but one GPU. And so that was a little bit of a part of it. And so we got this thing mining at first. That was like the big achievement was I could mine my own blockchain. This is pretty cool. And then I struggled with some parts of the peer, node consensus, and because Saphire is built from scratch, by the way. There's no cloning. We didn't clone something else, and we built every single piece from scratch, like the ground up. And it's even built in a language people say you shouldn't even use for blockchain, but I'm telling you, it works pretty good. Is JavaScript, Node.js. Okay. But anyway, so Blake 2S mining started, and then I don't remember I know that the original plan was kind of like to have the two chains and have Saphire kind of like be a backup to the data that's running on EtherGem. And then we could interface to the contracts on EtherGem or whatever stuff. But at that point, that's when I realized, hey, I can use an Egem address on a different chain. And I can do things to contracts and to Egem on this other chain using that address. I can mine with Blake 2S, but still use an Ethereum-based address, Egem. And this gives me some capabilities. And then I made the wallet into an array instead of like just a single Coinbase. So like when you do an emission, you mine a block, I can mine Saphire, or I can put one of the other coins that's on the chain in that array. Well, that got my brain thinking, if I can put multiple coins in one address on a second chain attached to an Ethereum chain, what can I do with that? And then somebody probably mentioned, well, you could try and run a DEX. And so that became a thing. So what's first step for doing a DEX is how can I do a trade, right? So I get these things trading, and I have an array of different coins in my wallet, and I can write signatures with that address, all client side, submit them to this chain, and use it on the other chain, and that's pretty cool. But then, okay, so I got a wallet. I have Egem, I have Saphire, I have Bitcoin, whatever. How did the Bitcoin get on that chain? How did the other coins get, like if I put Ethereum, I could do that, but how did it get there? So that got me chasing a totally different end game and figuring out how to do a cross-chain swap. Started doing a lot of research in that area. Obviously went through what most people are going to start looking into when they do a cross-chain swap. And the hash time lock contracts, all the different methods that other people have tried and have been successful, Lightning, whatever, right? And I came up with, I can move the Bitcoin from one person to another person on the Bitcoin chain by putting a transaction on a block. Or the other way to move that Bitcoin is to move the owner, move the private key to a different person, and the Bitcoin stays on the Bitcoin chain, but doesn't move in a block. It's still in the last unspent transaction output, but the owner has moved. But I can only do that if the owners don't know the private key that they just swapped. And that sent me to, so last time I was on the show, we talked about this. And I told you at the time I had this whole algorithm that would allow me to use the private keys on someone else's node, and the nodes were encrypted, and this whole, and I did, but that didn't scale very well. I got to tell you, we put that together, and by the way, I'm talking a lot here, so feel free to just say, hey.
You know what? So, I'm listening, and what you were saying there about it not scaling, from coming from a privacy coin, I know that when you start to put a lot of cryptography and a lot of hiding this value and hiding that value, all of a sudden it becomes computationally expensive, and it becomes expensive in blockchain terms. So I guess some listeners or viewers may lose what you're saying as you're saying it, but steam through, because what I always say to people is learning about these things is often like a loop, and when you get to the end, and I kind of know what's coming at the end, people will be like, okay, now I get it. So yeah, just carry on, and people who don't understand, just keep listening, and eventually hopefully you'll get it. If not, listen back again. But yeah, go ahead.
If not, submit a question and we'll try and answer the best we can. That's always an option too. I love talking about this stuff. So there's a bunch of hurdles that go into just keeping a blockchain, and especially like one like Saphire, we're trying to keep a 6-second block time, which is like crazy fast.
Awesome.
And it was tough to do all that stuff that I just talked about and keep the peers in sync. And I had my own style of transaction tree that I like to develop things on my own. And so I had this whole, it was pretty clever, it was pretty cool, but it didn't work as well as the Patricia Merkle tree concept that Ethereum uses.
Yeah.
So after getting really close to an implementation, keeping 6-7 nodes in sync, going up quite a few blocks, it would always fall apart at some point. And I really, what it was when you get a wallet that has had a transaction on every block, and you're trying to check the balance, and you don't really use that Patricia Merkle tree concept correctly, and you do it on your own, no matter how much preparation you do, it's really hard to get that transaction balance to be in sync on all the nodes. That tree concept works wonders. So I finally implemented it. There's some good courses you can even look up yourself. If you look up Patricia Merkle tree in JavaScript, and there's some Ethereum devs that have some really good blog posts and whatnot, you could implement this and use it in other softwares that you might, if you're a software developer.
Sorry to cut you. Out of curiosity, why 6 seconds? Why such a crazy fast block time?
Just seemed like fast block time would. So have you used a DEX that's slow?
I haven't honestly used a real DEX ever. I've never actually used a real DEX. I've used one on Ethereum, which is purely Ethereum, but cross-chain, I've tried to use BlockDX, which I consider a real DEX. Couldn't find the liquidity on either side. So I've never actually used a real DEX, but I would assume it would be as fast as the slower of the two coins that I'm trying to transact in. If I do BTC to something fast, it would be as slow as BTC. I'd assume.
Yeah, that's, well, unless you use some other format like like Lightning or something to settle your transaction. But yeah, it's because you have to wait for the confirmation of the slowest chain.
Yeah.
Well, when you're trying to do a trade and it's not just the trade is fine. It's posting an order and waiting to see it show up and get confirmed. Then what if you got to cancel it? Now you got to wait, so that's why 6 seconds, because everything is in the block. And that's what the focus has been on Saphire, is to make the trading engine all get driven by the block. And to be quick. So one of the aspects of being quick on a blockchain is to realize that a blockchain is a database. That's really what a blockchain is a database. And it has a database that stores the blocks and potentially some information around those blocks in a format that allows you to interact with it quickly. If you can't interact with it quickly, guess what you have to do is make an explorer that will interact with it quickly by hashing all the indexing all the transaction trees and whatnot, and so that you can find what you're looking for on the chain quickly. So we try and do a lot of that natively right in Saphire. And we wanted to be able to post. So if you do like a transaction on Ethereum or Bitcoin or anything, you notice it's like instant that the other peer recognizes that the transaction happened. It's just takes forever for those confirmations. So I wanted to work in a flow like that, where you get instant acknowledgement, but fairly quick confirmations, so that you can, if you ever want to move any weight, you're going to have to have like kind of a quick acknowledgement. And EtherGem itself is 12 seconds is pretty quick, and it's not excruciating, but sometimes even that seems a little slow, just from a, right? You're trying to do something, you're like, come on, confirm, let's go.
Well, to be honest, I don't think so. I've come to the acceptance that these things are not supposed to be that fast. So for people who are, I guess, kind of new to crypto, or maybe not even that new, I just want to kind of emphasize how ambitious what you're doing actually is. I don't want to be too much of a shill and say, oh yeah, this guy's great, but I just want to emphasize how ambitious it is, because because the alternative is there are loads of projects now, Solana, Hedera, Hashgraph, Binance. There's loads of these projects that are kind of Ethereum-ish and are claiming that they've got all these hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, but then there's only 2 nodes. Do you know what I mean? So you can, like, I can do 10 million transactions per second if I've just got 2 nodes, or if I've just got 1 node, it's not great. So I just wanted to kind of slip that in there so that people kind of got more of a feel for the ambitiousness of this, what you've actually been doing, which again is the reason why when I came back to the project and saw it was sub 1 million, I was like, well, why? Kind of like, this makes no sense to me. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so anyway, Saphire does host a DEX. If you go to youtube.com/c/EgemOfficial, you will see a series of videos. I would click the videos link itself and look back through some of the history. I've posted dev videos of almost every single achievement over the last 2 years that we've done. And it's using a mobile app, connecting directly to the chain, and doing step-by-step development and showing that development. So to answer my previous question, how did the Bitcoin get onto the Saphire chain? it didn't at the time that I originally had the Array wallet. I needed to make that happen. And I decided that the easiest way to make that happen was to do what we call like a cryptographic entanglement of the Bitcoin onto the Egem chain. And what that actually means is I'm going to transfer the Bitcoin onto the Egem chain like a deposit into an exchange, but it's an exchange that you control. You control that wallet, not like a custodial wallet that somebody else has the key hidden in a database and all that stuff. No, you have it in your control. And then once that Bitcoin is deposited into that address, which you make on the Egem Saphire chain, then you can transfer it from, because that does take the 30 minutes, right? The 3 confirms or whatever, right? Yeah. So like it's a standard transaction. Then if I send it to your Saphire address, once it's on my Saphire address, that is 6 seconds. Because at that point, I'm not that Bitcoin is here on the Bitcoin chain. It ain't moving. But you can't move it from the Bitcoin chain because it's cryptographically entangled onto Saphire, because the private key is locked in Saphire, controlled by my wallet, my Egem wallet. And my Egem wallet controls that private key, and I have to do a signed transaction into the chain in order to send that private key to you. Now, this is a private key that I've never seen, and I can't get the private key out of the chain. It's in the chain, encrypted. That's where most of the work has gone into over the last year. Ever since, so I initially solved that issue, that problem, by having the multiple nodes and doing this long. It was just a cryptographic scheme of how am I going to reach into the other guy's memory and get his keys and all this stuff. And it was very complex. Yeah. I scaled that down and I came up with a way to do it on a single node, which was and a lot of people are going to say right now that that's impossible. I think this is bullshit, and blah 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 blah. That's fine. Say it. I really feel I'm a software developer. I've been a software developer a long time. I know that I have this, and I'm proving that it works. And I've even pointed out in my Saphire channel the few weaknesses that I see that could exist, and we've done the quick analysis that we feel like we've overcome those challenges. And we're going to do the more formal testing publicly and be able to evaluate that. Yeah, we're correct. If that testing fails, we do have like a backup plan, and that backup plan is to do something kind of like what you said, but not quite that drastic. Not just 2 nodes, but have like like a series of nodes that specifically handle a certain type of data, so that we wouldn't have an issue. But I don't think we're ever getting to that, because I'm pretty confident in what I've developed, and it works amazingly well right now. So I got the concept of putting the Bitcoin onto Saphire, transferring the Bitcoin. I'm using Bitcoin as an example. You can really do any change.
It could be anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it can be anything. I have some development work to do for things that aren't like standard, and there's also some. For each coin, I got to do a little bit of work. So I'm trying to like kind of figure out what are we going to call our limits and what's the expansion plan. But definitely Bitcoin, Litecoin, stuff like that will be on it to out of the gate. So you get your Bitcoin onto the chain. I can transfer it to you. You can transfer it to somebody else. The first question that comes up is, hey, what about, excuse me, if you split an unspent transaction output?
That's what I was going to ask.
How's that work? Yeah, so that was one of the first challenges I had to overcome and figure out, how am I going to split a unspent transaction output? It actually turns out to be pretty easy, because I have not seen the private key that's hidden in the Saphire chain, which means you haven't seen it either, and I'm about to give it to you. But here's the cool thing. It's encrypted. It's going to be encrypted when it gets to you, and we both have to do some signed transactions to get it to each other. Either I send it to you or we trade it on the DEX for you to get that key. Well, I can give you the key and I can still have the key. And because of the way that the transactions work, it's not based on the Bitcoin balance that's in that address. It's based on the balance that the Saphire chain knows I have in that address is tied to my share of that private key. So that's how I solved that. And at first I thought I was nuts, but somebody mentioned, like, they were joking around. They said, the only way you're going to be able to do what you're doing is if you actually traded the private key. I was like, he's right. And I didn't really like the guy that said it. So it was kind of fun. But anyway, you learn from everybody, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the concept there. And you can do multiple. It works well. And I've proven there's videos I can show you. Like, I do it a lot with Egem. I've done it with Bitcoin testnet. And pretty soon you'll be able to download the wallet and do it yourself, the mobile wallet, because all the functions work on the mobile wallet. If you went back a year when I was first starting to prove this stuff out, it's kind of like tough, because all the functions weren't on a mobile transaction. They were all curl functions, and I had to like curl this, get this thing, mine a block or two, send this curl in. And it's like, like 10 different commands to get the thing done. Now I've consolidated it into like a nice streamlined process. But that's what software development is, right? You prove the concept, it's sound, and then you start building on that stack and making everything refined, smooth, and operational. And we're pretty much there. There's also videos. So remember, I started with the trading engine. So that was the easy part. It already trades. I just had to make sure that the money that you're trading on the chain actually was backed by something, and get the deposit and the withdrawal methodology. So when you think about Saphire and you think about a cross-chain swap, it's not much different than going to your local central exchange, creating a wallet, and depositing your coin there. That's the initial deposit. But then imagine if that exchange, and I know some of them do allow this, had the capability to call up Cryptosi, who has a wallet of his own on that exchange or an account, and say, hey, I'm going to just transfer some of my coins over to Cryptosi's wallet. Which a lot of exchanges allow that. So Saphire does that. That's a transfer. And it works just like a regular transaction on Ethereum, Bitcoin, anything. You sign it locally, submit it to the chain, transfers the coin, block gets mined, records the transaction. It's in your wallet. Each node has an explorer. I thought that was pretty cool. It was Node.js. One of the primary uses of Node.js is to put up APIs, right? And Web Central. So every node, pretty simple to put up an explorer, and any node that's not behind that, you can hit their explorer and see your transactions. We use the Patricia Merkle tree to accommodate accounts and keep them in sync. I've got 4 trees on the chain. One for orders, one for Saphire in general, like the blocks and stuff, one for transactions, and one for safes. And then there's another element that's not really a tree to get into the safes, because it's a little complex. You got some questions or something? Or
no, go ahead.
Okay. So we've had 2 pretty well-known blockchain enthusiasts stop in and give me a pretty rough time in question and answer sessions in the Saphire channel, because I didn't release all the code open source immediately. I am releasing it open source at launch, but it's taken me 3 years to develop this. I don't really just want to toss it out there and have somebody else come up with, maybe they develop it and do it on their chain first. So after having seen enough clones and copies and stuff, I really would like to at least implement on our own chain first, right? And then copy it at will. It's fun. That'll be cool. So I forget where I was going with that. Anyway, they give me a hard time, and one of the questions they ask is, well, okay, so that's BS that you could do the cross chain, the single node hide the private key. It's not really hiding a private key. It is encrypting a private key using your client side credentials combined with some stuff on the chain, and extrapolating or deriving the encryption in such a way that somebody couldn't do it if they didn't have your credentials, right? But it's done in such a way that it could be recreated on the chain when needed to transfer something to somebody else. Because in a trade mechanism, I need to be able to create your account too. So those were some of the hurdles and challenges that I ran into with that. There was another challenge embedded in there that I kind of went out of my mind. So if you recall what I was talking about, bring it up and I'll jump into
what I did
it.
want to say, is that I witnessed one of the discussion between you and Kayaba, and I've been doing podcasts with Kayaba for about 2.5 years. He's like a very good friend of mine. He is probably the only other person I know besides yourself who has worked on their own project from scratch, which is like it's literally you two guys, and I know a lot of other guys. So when I find someone that's doing that type of stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, let me go and get in their slipstream because they're going somewhere. But the discussion that you two had, the openness of it all, it was really, really refreshing. I'm not just saying this because you're here, but it really was refreshing. It was something that you don't often see in crypto. And Kayaba's not the type of guy to hold back, and you're not the type of guy to shy
He's
away
not.
from. Right. And you're not the type of guy to.
I could see him upsetting a few people, but
Oh,
he's cool. I mean, I
loads.
understand where he's coming from. He just wanted to know he wanted to make sure that it wasn't BS, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, because it's easy to make a claim. Hey, I can be the first guy that hides a private key on the chain, and that's like known to be impossible. So if it's mathematically impossible and you're saying you're doing it, I'm going to call BS. And
Yeah.
if I was in issues, I would as well. I don't think it's exactly that what I did in implementation. When you really look at it, and when he sees the code, and that's why I told him, I said, I'm happy if you want to check this out, and just realize I put a lot of work into this. I believe 100% that this works, and I didn't want to just have somebody assume that it doesn't work until they really get into the details, because I generally put a lot of work into. I know that it works. I mean, there's not like an if it works. I've been very public, but I've pointed out even the weaknesses, or whenever we've had a shortcoming and made a mistake and couldn't get it. Yeah. You can ask anybody who's been a supporter of Egem. We thought Saphire was launching 2 years ago. And we get close, and then we hit a hurdle that I couldn't overcome. I've cleared all the hurdles now. We're going with this thing. Right now, we're running a chain that stays synced, and we can fast sync when somebody new comes on. That was like another challenge. I know all the chains do it a little bit different way.
Yeah.
But our way was clever. I think that it was pretty cool, and it works now. It was like an hour to sync 10,000 blocks before this fast sync thing. So that might put it in perspective, because if you start a brand new chain, an hour for 10,000 blocks, think about most chains are in the millions. You're not going to be involved with that chain for very long.
Yeah.
So the new user stuff had to be simplistic. It works with one private key on your Egem wallet on many chains. And I can transfer a Bitcoin, a Litecoin, a Saphire, and Egem to anybody on the Egem network using my mobile phone app that's displayed in those videos that I said on the YouTube channel. I've shown depositing currency onto the chain. I've shown so one of the unique aspects about that is when I create my little safe on the chain, I can prove that I own that. It's just a simple signed transaction that says that my Egem address owns that Bitcoin address, and then the Bitcoin address signs that transaction. I sign it client side. The chain signs it for me when I submit my signed transaction. And then I put the proofs up, and you can't fake those proofs, right? So as long as I'm not running and I'm going to release the node to everybody, because we run nodes on Saphire too. So this isn't a node that's running in my back room that you never get access to.
Right.
You're going to be able to look at the code and say, it works, or I can hack it. And I'm not going to tell Osoese that I can hack it because I want to steal somebody's Bitcoin. that's totally cool. Try, because I don't think you can. Otherwise, Sapphire's not going to go very far. But yeah, you'll be able to try that, and I hope that if somebody wants to try that they do try that. And I don't think that they're going to be successful, but if they are, we'll come up with a solution at that point, and it'll materialize in testnet.
Effectively, there's pretty much a guarantee that plenty of people are going to try that, because it's
I would.
because there's money to be made. And I think that's what I really liked about the way you approached it, is that you're kind of approaching it not only as a software developer, but kind of as a scientist first and foremost, where you've said, okay, this is what I've done. If you don't think it works, once I've released it, then you can have a look and try to break it. Like, there's a bullseye there. There will be a target there. I will probably have my money there. So the target is there. If you, people will probably be hesitant, some people, and it probably would be prudent to be hesitant. But at the same time, I believe this is the way things should be. You build it, you make it, you put it out there. If someone can come along and crack it, then happy days. If they can't, then it's just another tool to make crypto and everybody else's life just that little bit better. And having you two guys go at it was probably the highlight of my year so far. It was really good. For anybody who is interested in that, join the Discord, and I believe it was in the SFRX. Is that the?
Yeah, that's Sapphire's ticker.
Yes.
So the SFRX chat is the Saphire chat, and you can ask in the general chat also, and we're going to point you to that chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that discussion between you two, although it was quite technical, it wasn't the type of discussion that was beyond people who are somewhat familiar with crypto. Because I had a friend of mine actually rang me. He actually rang me. He said, Cryptosi, you need to get into that room. You guys are really going at it. So then, so obviously, I think I was eating at the time, and I managed to get a chance to have a look after you guys had finished. And honestly, you two held court. It was really good to see. It was really good, and it will
I mean, he's a guest of yours.
Yeah.
And you invited him in. I really appreciated the conversation. You can relay that. I mean, he knows already. And I look forward to the next conversation like that. And I appreciate his feedback, because a guy like that, if he can use it and says that it's good, well, I'm going to take his word over. Like, if I don't know crypto, I'm going to take his word on something like that, because he's a guy that you really have to convince.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing. Yeah. I need to look into what he's done as well.
Yeah, well, he's currently working on atomic swaps for Meros. He's Monero. He's a part of that team that are doing that. So he was the first person to actually implement that. I said that when he had joined. That's kind of the place where, although the tech is very much different, there's some similarities in the fact that they're both trying to do atomic swaps or do cross-chain swaps. So there's that kind of similarity. But what I feel is good about the way both him and you are is that he's the type of person that once he's in and he's looking at it and you're looking at it, even if things do crop up, he's not the type of person to be like, well, ha, that's wrong, blah, blah, blah. He's the type of person to say, well, why don't we try X, Y, or Z? And I think the two of you may become allies in a certain way, whereby you will look at things he's done and just give fresh eyes. The way I see it is that there are kind of levels to developers. 90% of people can't develop. Then there's 5% of people that can copy and paste. And then there's the other guys. Do you know what I mean? And when the other guys start looking at each other's work, it just makes it a lot better. You get in effectively, not a full audit, but you're getting a peer review, and it's worth a lot, right? So that was the reason why I invited him over, because I can ask you and you can tell me whatever. Like the best I can do is give you some good questions, but I can't really quiz you in the way that he can quiz you. And then vice versa. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you go over to his project, if you take the time and decide, oh, let me go and have a look at Meros, you might be like, well, hold on a minute. These nodes are going to crash because X, Y, and Z. So I think it's good to get you type of guys together in a room. And
yeah, and that Monero, I haven't really explored the Monero code base as much as I do want to. But I did start with, we had Zero coin come in and want to partner up with Egem, and the one pirate coin dev had me look. It ended up back at Zcash, figuring out those sapling address creation and the cryptography that goes into that. And I'm close. I got the whole thing where I could put it onto Saphire, except for one part that I'm still lacking. And I don't know Rust, and they use all Rust in their stuff. So I'm trying to figure it out, looking at the paper wallets and whatnot. When I make my spend the public address that you would send money to, all the other stuff works out. I can make the private keys and whatnot. But when I make the public address, it doesn't match what I get when I put that private key into the Zcash wallet. And there might just be a bug in the Zcash, one of the Zcash wallets. I probably should test it in some other ones. But like the T address works, it's the Z address public part that I'm having an issue with. Other than that, I got it. And I can derive it from the same stuff that I use to derive like a Bitcoin address or Litecoin address, because it all starts in the same place. Well, the saplings don't really, but there is a way that I could do that, and I used my mentality. So we got that as well coming, and I'd like to talk to your friend about the Monero stuff, as time allows. But like everything, we want to do it all, and we have like, I guess, 1 hour, right?
Yeah, and right, this is another problem. I always run into this problem. It's like you set your scope out, and like you were saying about Saphire at the start, and even Egem itself, you said it started off, it was just going to be a token. The amount of times I've had a project where I've said, okay, do you know what, I'm just going to do this, and then you say, well, maybe it'll be a good idea if I do this. Oh, maybe to do that I have, and before you know it, everything's scope's gone out the window, and you end up spending 10 times as long, 10 times as much money.
NFTs. I started messing with NFTs and whatnot, and just interacting with MetaMask. And okay, it's not enough just to build something that will deploy the contract and put it on IPFS and get me going. I got to do it in basic HTML where anybody could do it, because then I can just put it up on an IPFS hash website and it's decentralized. So yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. There's always another level to.
There's always something else, because then after that, you're going to start thinking. There's something that I only got drawn my attention to a few months ago, was that you can put it on an IPFS, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be there forever. I was always under the impression once it's on IPFS, it's there forever. But if you put it to the wrong IPFS and they decide to stop hosting it, and you haven't hosted it somewhere else, it's gone. Well, that's the problem, right? So yeah.
This IPFS is pretty neat, because they got. I've been exploring with that too, and there's the JS IPFS, and apparently they had it working pretty well in the browser without too much of the Node.js style npm package installs. And then now it's all npm, but you can still do it in the browser. You just got to really think like, how in the heck do I really do this? And look up if you do enough research, you'll find the ways to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's the IPNS that I can get to work on one of these, because you can make a node right in the browser. I mean, just a plain HTML page, right? Just put it anywhere, GitHub, whatever. And you got your plain HTML page. You can host a node on that plain HTML page in IPFS. And then I can register an IPNS address, but I'm having trouble getting it to be acknowledged on another node that's generated the same way. So I can feel your pain there.
Right. I have got a guy. Well, I guess we'll discuss that later, but I do have a good IPFS guy. So we will discuss that. We'll discuss that off air, because now that you're going into this this NFT rabbit hole, which is probably one of the worst rabbit holes that there are.
It's fun.
Yeah, but it's also time consuming, right? So
it is. what I like about it is I don't know how long does this show run, by the
Yeah,
way.
I was just looking at that. I'm cautious of time because we're supposed to do an hour, but we're going over. So go ahead. Let's keep going. This is our
Well, just we could talk about this next time.
yeah, okay.
What I'm enjoying with NFTs, just quickly, is I got my NFT. That's simple. You know, you can go use the Open Zeppelin contract and have an NFT up in a few minutes.
Yep.
But when you start combining with the ERC20 stuff, and now all of a sudden I can take some tokens into my NFT, and I can take some Egem in my NFT, and my NFT owns and holds assets. That's the kind of stuff that really kind of starts to excite me. And I'm getting excited about combining the two types of contracts and all the different capabilities. I mean, it's just some days I would say, man, if I would have just used an NFT for Sapphire, maybe I'd already be market.
It's not too different, right? Because you get to just package stuff up underneath one thing. I guess maybe the problem might be unpackaging it. But no, I think Sapphire is probably a better way to go than NFTs.
I'm enjoying Sapphire. Like with Sapphire, we got GPU miners now, AMD and NVIDIA, where we got the chain stabilized and synced up, and we're running dev blockchains up, tens of thousands of blocks now. They're stable. They're syncing quickly. We're able to do, if you look at some of those videos on YouTube, you'll see where I say buy the book, right? I'm actually hitting the order book. A block gets mined and you see all the orders process. That stuff works and that's cool to me. So I'm enjoying it. Yeah, the NFT excites me, but yeah, Sapphire's where it's at. I'm gonna shut up so we can get off the air. But we have a lot to talk
about. as you were talking, there was something I was going to ask you, but I've let it slip my mind. Oh, that's annoying. Oh. Okay, I'm cautious of time, so I'm going to ask you. I want to get one more question in before we go. Okay, I'll tell you a good one. What would be the process for anybody who's watching this and is actually a developer and they felt like they wanted to contribute to no let me ask the other question because just come back to me, and it's something that people would give me a hard time if I didn't actually ask you this. So do you have a time, I know we're in the eternal 3 months and it can last forever, but do you have a time for when you will open source the Saphire work, the nodes and all of the other parts to it? Do you have a date in mind? Is there something that people can look forward to?
Well, we're just getting to the test net in the dev team room right now working. Excuse me. So what that means is I'm treating the other devs just like a user, you, me, whatever, if we didn't know anything. And I teach them how to compile a node, put it together, catch up to the network and sync. And then I give them my Android app and show them how that connects to the chain. And then we run that and we've had certain struggles to get to this point. Now that we are at this point, all the hard functions are written. The stuff that's left is like tidy, busy work, cleanup stuff, you call it refactoring, but it's not like major refactor. So you're going to see this chain start to come together. We had to do node organization, which means how the peers interact. Remember, Sapphire's is written from scratch, so I'm not copying the other methods that other people use. Came up with my own. And then we're going to launch a public testnet. We just figured out how to do a pool. So the first thing we're going to do is release the miners and a pool address so some people can mine, because there's a lot of excitement around the Blake 2S mining. Yep. You can take the old SIA miners, modify them slightly, and we probably got some ASICs, and we're excited about that kind of stuff. But GPUs work, CPUs work, although CPUs, there's some mods that I got to do to keep them relevant because GPUs blow them away. So anyway, we're going to get this thing up and running, and people will be mining on, first a pool. Then we'll just say, hey, you can mine any node. And then I'm going to launch the chain and give the code out but we're going to run a small test net. But a testnet is not really a testnet for us because the only thing test about it is the Saphire is going to get restarted when we restart that chain.
Yeah.
But all the other stuff, if you do the cross-chain swap or something, you need to do it quick because you need to know that you need to get your funds on and off. Yeah. And not leave them sit on Saphire because it is going to reset, but you could test a real transaction. Okay. And that's the point. And then once that stuff is stable, we do a memory scan, make sure that there's nothing leaked out that can escape the areas that we've trapped and encrypted it in. Then I'm going to feel comfortable just saying, hey, we're here, we're live. Here's the code. Some people are going to clone it. Other people are going to want to participate. And that's the question you asked me. If you are a developer and you're a good developer, or you're an eager developer, meaning you may not be so good, but you have the willingness to learn and try. And especially if you like Node.js and you're adaptable, please just stop in and start talking to me because I would like to work with you. And there's a lot of potential right now for devs. On Saphire, we control the Coinbase coming out of the gate. We still have the liberty to put some transactions into a community dev fund or a Genesis block or whatever. And all that stuff about it has to be no pre-mine or whatever doesn't really apply. Look, Ethereum did $110 million or something pre-mine when they came out of the gate launch. It's going to be relevant and it's going to be there. So if you want to participate, I think we got something really good. I think you'll enjoy it. It's got a fast block time. It's fun. It's a good community. Maybe that answers your question. You're there.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing.
You get to hang out with Cryptosi.
Yeah. And that's definitely the highest selling point. Forget about this genius and all this Saphire he's doing. Just have to hang out with me. So I was thinking about, as you mentioned it, about funding. And you were saying that you was you're saying now that you're considering a pre-mine.
There is definitely on Saphire. There is some already, and there will be more. As we put the final touches together, we need some of that.
Did you not consider having a fee for the exchanges that happen on Saphire, and then having that be kind of like a dev fund of sorts?
Well, the fee that's for trades actually. A small portion will probably go to some devs, but the majority of it is designed to actually support. So I know we're way over time, and you probably want to go back and cut some of the stuff where I was blabbing around. And get
no, this is gold. But, this is gold.
This is how it is. When you trade on Saphire, or we're going to have some kind of a stable coin situation probably as well. When you trade on those things, those fees go to support the Saphire and Egem ecosystem, which is a node that you're running as a user. And the way it supports it is unique in that we have an exchange. So you're going to take those fees and see them become market buys for the coins that you're participating in. What does that do? That's so much better than you just getting a node reward of our coin. What it means is we're market buying our coin and then distributing the coins that were bought to those nodes. That creates that volume that you're looking for. And that's an internal ecosystem. The mobile app was designed to go into merchants and stuff and become like a merchant services situation on a decentralized chain. So we're hoping to really explore that avenue once we get launched. And I would like to see, like you see in the BCH world, those guys are really good at marketing themselves using mobile apps at merchants. I'd like to see that in the Saphire Egem world. There's definitely some market support, some professional support, and some people that are willing to put their money up on things like that. So if you want to participate in something like that, come in, talk to us, and we'll make room for you. We're here for people that are eager crypto enthusiasts and want to see the whole bunch of us survive and thrive. We're not really. We're not printing a big giant press release. You really got to find out about Saphire. It's not like you're going to see it on an
ad. Unfortunately, yeah, that's and that I think that's probably the toughest thing about it is that it is still so confined to just the EtherGem community, and I think that will almost definitely change, regardless of whichever. No, regardless of when this comes out, I think that will change, and I think when people do actually see what's happened and it starts to sink in, it's up there for me. It's up there with like lightning. It's one of those things that it's a big deal. It really is a big deal. So
Thank
we
you.
shall see. But
And Egem's a big deal too. Remember, right now you can come in and get a node, get some just barely over market cap Egem. We trade on 3 exchanges: Mercatox, Stex, and Gravix. We've been on Gravix from like when Gravix was just getting started, I think. So, Egem is there, and there's a lot of fan support for Egem out there. People, you might know this from hanging around the OTC channel. It's kind of tough to buy Egem. Nobody sells it. The price never goes up.
Yeah.
I got to think about that one. I don't understand it, but maybe some people just like to keep accumulating.
It was the most frustrating week and so of my life. I don't want to get into my own personal finances, but trying to prize that bloody token out of all those people with their cast iron hands, it was hard work. But I'm noticing now that I guess people are starting to wake up and understand that things are going to change as EtherGem and Saphire moves into another stage, because generally the parts when you've been working on it, other people can't really get involved. Of course, they can sit and they can watch and they can cheerlead effectively, but now we're moving to a part where it is ready to go. EtherGem as a network is there, DeFi is here, NFTs are here. There's so much offer, so much to do, and I think people are starting to wake up to that fact. So it reminds me quite a lot of when PivX was young, just in that there's a lot of talent there, and there's a lot of eagerness, even if there's not a lot of experience. So some of the people are kind of like I was then, whereby I'm enthusiastic, of course, had loads of energy, but possibly not the experience. And it's going to be a fun ride. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a really good fun ride.
But and like some of that stuff that you mentioned, it was tough to have somebody developing in the same code base 6 months ago, because I'm in this code base every day. I put hours per day on Saphire and Egem, and if I take a break from it, I'm working on an NFT on Egem. So but now that it's starting to stabilize and go, we really need that additional developer mentality to come in and say, hey, this is cool. We can work with this, and let's take it to some other, because there's so much embedded in this. I think, quite frankly, I haven't really talked about all the functions that are in Saphire. There's a lot of areas that a developer could just take off and explore and build their own product out of it, and it's on the chain. So enough of that. Thank you so much for having me on your show again, and look forward to the next one.
Well, for those of you who have reached the end, congratulations. It's gone really quickly, actually. So we're an hour and 20 minutes in, but it's really gone quite fast. Like, honestly, I could probably do this 2 or 3 hours. But what we'll do is I've got so many more questions that I didn't ask. So hopefully I'll be able to bug Osoese to come back next month. But generally, what I did want to do was not only have you, Osoese, but I wanted to have also other projects which were being built on top of EtherGem, because effectively it's Ethereum. There's a clamoring for lower fees on Ethereum, so hopefully the DeFi, the NFTs, and all those sorts of things will start to move over. Maybe some games and things like that. So as that happens, I want to give them this particular platform to discuss with them. Obviously, I'm not keeping you as a placeholder. When they do come, I still want to have you here as well, so we can discuss what you're actually up to. But also, thank you very much for your transparency. I think it's refreshing to see that you're prepared to come on and have people answer the questions, like we said before, with your exchange with Kaiba or anybody else who joins the Discord. You're always there, prepared to actually respond pretty quickly. Same with riddles. Riddles.
Yeah.
It's Riddles,
And
right?
Troy, yeah, you had Troy on your show the first time.
Yeah.
Troy's been involved in life a little bit the last couple months, but he's normally pretty, and especially on the mining stuff. So Troy's there, Lewis, Nieners,
Yeah.
these guys and their names, but
It's a massive team.
There's a few others. Scorpion, Sarthis, I think, is starting to join in, and there's just a good greater community. So
it's a massive team. When you compare, I don't want to. Should I name drop? I don't want to name drop, but there are other projects that are in the top 100 that I know for a fact have got one or two freelance devs sometimes, and honestly, and they're worth $2 billion. And to me, it's like, okay, well, that's fair enough. Once we get some writers or some other more market-oriented types into EtherGem, and it's not such an honest retro crypto, and it's a bit more of a show and a spectacle, I think the sky really is the limit, especially from a $1 million market cap, which is where we're at now. Amazing.
Yeah, with only a 50 million, roughly max supply.
Yeah.
The sky is, and with 20 million off the market in nodes and that hodl game right now. Think about that for a
minute. and that's not including DeFi. If DeFi comes in, there's going to be a lot of staking, there's going to be a lot of pools, there's going to be a lot of pairings between whatever tokens come in and Egem. So, well, anyway, I'm not here to be a salesman. So thank you very, very much for donating your time. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, no, thank you very much. It's great to talk to you, and I always learn something. So it's really, especially your description of Saphire and your passion for it, it's really interesting and refreshing. So those of you who have listened, please make sure you like and subscribe and all of that other good stuff, but also share this, because it's important that other people do get to see this side of crypto. It's not always about buy this token, it's going to 100x, etc., etc. It's important that people see this side of crypto where people are actually building, not just copying and pasting and putting a new name on the same old trash. Actual new stuff, actual development. So please share it, and Osoese, you've been an absolute gent, and I will see you next month. So
sir, thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Thanks very much.
All right, have a good one.